Hello there, welcome to Fantasy Grounds with Ungaini Titan. And I want to do a first impression of Xanathar's Guide to Everything that has just been released for Fantasy Grounds and in general for D&D as well. I've been looking forward to Xanathar's Guide for quite some time, and I had pre-ordered it on Amazon since last August, I think, but there was no indication on Amazon when I was going to get it. And I saw on Facebook that it was available on Fantasy Grounds, so I thought I was going to get it for Fantasy Grounds anyway, so I said I'm going to get it straight away. And I'll also have a quick look at it, and I've had a quick read through certain sections of it, well, through most of the player section. Some bits I've read in detail, some bits I've just had a quick skim, and I just want to share my impressions. So, without further ado, we just go into our library. And we have Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and while we're at it, we'll just pull up magic items, and we just stick it over there for a while, and we pull up feats, and we just stick that there, and we do spells perhaps. And we stick that there, and I'll just have a quick look at the reference manual, just to give us an indication. So the reference manual, you have your preface and introduction. There's Xanathar's goldfish. He seems to have a real fondness for his goldfish. And there's Xanathar doing a bit of research. There's a kind of a little bit of DM advice, some general rules advice, and then you have the character options. So you have options for every character. You have the barbarian, bard, cleric, and so on, and you have quite a few options. Druid, fighter. I particularly liked the arcane archer. I thought it was a very strong, very strongly themed, very well thematic element for the druid. I also liked the College of Swords for the bard. It is essentially kind of a non-entertainer bard. It's more of a bard as swordsman and circus weapons talent. You know, these knife throwers, sword swallowers, sword dancers, that kind of stuff. The arcane archer was pretty nice as well. I liked it. I like some of the samurai stuff. I really like the strength before death, which is a thing you can do when you're about to expire, where you get basically an extra action, or an extra full action, I think. So you have the paladin stuff. The ranger stuff I was looking forward to, and I was a little disappointed, but perhaps not as much as I would have been if I hadn't actually been paying a little bit more attention to the publicity stuff that Wizards of the Coast were running before this book was released. I have not been paying as much attention to 5th edition since it was released on the internet, so to speak, on forums or on discussion groups. And I certainly haven't been really watching Unearthed Arcana or any of that kind of stuff. So while, I've been quite happy with the rate at which stuff was released, because it gives you a chance to actually explore a lot more of the stuff, whereas the previous editions things tended to whiz past at a very high rate, because it's published, they're knocking out a book a month, or even faster, I think, in some editions. And an awful lot of the character options you just never got to use. You just got overwhelmed by choices, and you never really got to use a lot of the options. So but I was thought the ranger was a little bit weak. It's one of the few classes I've had a chance to play. I played it a few times, and I thought, it's good on the wilderness and stuff like that, but it's actually weak enough in a fight. The cleric is a similar problem with melee weapons, but the cleric can make up for it with some of the spells that they have, particularly ones that sort of trigger on bonus actions. I think there's a spiritual weapon and a few others that just do area effects that they can keep up and keep running. The ranger doesn't seem to have anything like that. Okay, you've got Hunter's Mark. However, in the run-up, in the particularly the YouTube videos that were put out by D&D Beyond with Jeremy Crawford and Mike Merles. They were indicating that they had experimented with various Ranger options on the Unearthed Arcana series, and that the final version, so we say the final feedback from the Unearthed Arcana, had not been incorporated or was not ready in time, or perhaps they want to do more experimenting. I'm not exactly sure how far along the thing is. But the Ranger, sort of revised version of the Ranger, was not available for Xanathar's Guide to Everything. They do have a couple of archetypes, the Gloomstalker, the Horizon Walker, and the Monster Slayer. I'd say they're pretty solid. They're thematically well put together, and I like them. But so I had a quick look at the Unearthed Arcana stuff, and as far as I can make out the last one I was looking at, one of the things that just caught my eye was that, because I just had a quick glance, was, for instance, they were reintroducing damage bonuses for favoured enemies, which I thought might actually be a way to go. I don't know, I mean, I haven't played it out. And obviously Wizards of the Coast haven't quite made up their minds, but they are solid, I think, entries, and I like the idea of the fact that they give the Ranger extra spells outside of the normal Ranger list. I must also say I like the idea of the whole idea of just running the Drunken Master or Monk archetype as well. The Rogue gets a few. The Inquisitive and a Mastermind, of course, fit right in, and the Swashbuckler probably fits in well with the Rogue as well. I'm not sure about the Scout. The Scout just strikes me as stepping on the toes a little bit of the Ranger, but we'll see how it works out, as you were saying in the thing. There's some nice Sorcerer teams. The Divine Soul is essentially the Sorcerer Cleric. Shadow Magic, Storm Sorcery. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the Warlock. Now, I really have never looked into the Warlock in 5th edition, so I haven't seen one in play. I haven't really read the Warlock stuff, so there's quite a bit of stuff here. There's the Celestial Warlock, the Hexblade, which was a separate class, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on Eldritch Evocations. The only thing on the Wizard is the War Mage, War Magic, which again has some nice features. You can basically, the Arcane Deflection is a kind of a mini shield. Tactical Wit gives you initiative bonuses. Power Surge means you can tap energy that's of incoming spells and store it up to, I think, once per intelligence bonus, with a minimum of once. And it looks interesting. It's definitely something I intend to try out. This one section I haven't read at all. It looks like a character generation background stuff. It's got tables and sections, and you can probably randomly generate a life story. But sometimes these things are very useful in the ideas that they give you, much less in the randomization. You don't necessarily have to randomize the whole thing. But I have found in the past that means of filling in character generation takes a lot of pressure off the players if they're being asked to create stuff like that in the background. And it's useful to get your players involved in this, and players often like this sort of stuff because it's kind of hard to come up with a whole life story on the spot, and most people aren't that creative. The only feats are racial feats. They're flavoursome, pretty good. I mean, you know, there's a lot of feats you'd like to take, but you can't because you're not, you know, Dragonborn or Dwarf or whatever. But yes, it is a useful list of stuff. The rest of the book then I haven't really looked at. There's so I presume this is advice on running stuff, tools, spellcasting. Had a quick look. I mean, it's fine, you know. Counter building. The big one here is downtime activities, particularly crafting items, because this allows you to craft magic items, potions, and there's also scribing scrolls, and some ideas as to how you might include crafting and the quest for resources to do crafting. Common magic items, I like some of the idea. The armor gleaming that never gets dirty. I think one of my favourites here is the Cloak of Billowing. Bonus action to make it billow dramatically. For all Emperor and Darth Vader fans out there, this is definitely the one. You could actually have great fun with a cloak of many fashions. So on and so forth. There are quite a few spells. Is there a list? Spell lists. So there's a list of the various spells here. So the Bard gets a bunch of stuff. Some of these things I think had appeared previously. Catnip is quite a nice one. It causes people to go to sleep. But they sleep for 10 minutes and they get the effect of a short rest, which is normally an hour. Now, obviously the caster doesn't get the benefit of it, but, this could be very useful for a party that's under time pressure. Maybe the cleric is out of healing, or the wizard is out of something or other, or the fighter is out of resources, and you need to boost people back up, and the bard has some resources left. There are also quite a few Temple of the Gods ceremony. It's here somewhere. Yes, world spells that are not. How do you put it? They're not immediate. They don't change the power level of the campaign, but they're useful from a world building point of view. The Temple of the Gods conjures a temple, a physical temple. Ceremony is does various things, like it's basically all your religious services rolled into one. So you have coming of age ceremonies, blessing of holy water to create holy water, which explains where all this holy water comes from, and so on and so forth. There's some wizard ones like Mighty Fortress is actually another one that conjures a physical fortress, and it's one of these ones that lasts for a week. So you have basically a post in the wilderness, staffed by a horde of unseen servants with enough provisions for a week, and if you recast it every week for a year, you get a permanent fortress. Now, it's a rather poor fortress in terms of the thickness of the walls and the size of the fortress. It's quite small, and the walls are only like a foot thick, which wouldn't last up against a determined attack by a properly equipped army. Even guys with picks and shovels would work their way through the walls in double quick time. But it'd be the kind of thing you could imagine a spellcaster or a group casting in the wilderness to protect, shall we say, a workforce while they build a proper castle. And maybe a couple of them, along with the cleric one with the temple, Summon Temple or whatever it's called. Temple of the Gods, which is a similar thing for the clerics. So I think there are some quite interesting spells. I seen a few of them. I haven't seen them all. Well, I have seen them, kind of glanced at them all. The Transmute Rock is back. Transmutes rock to mud and mud to rock, but non-magical mud, non-magical rock. So you can play tricks with like the classic first, second edition trick of transmuting rock to mud, having the enemies sink into the mud, and then transmuting it back to rock, and then just move on. and thereby bypassing the encounter. But you know, you're after the gold for the experience, not the encounter. So overall, yes, I think it is. I like it. I think there's some really good stuff in it. I look forward to getting to use some of this stuff, and I think it is well worth the investment. So thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider giving it a like, and also perhaps consider giving the channel a subscription. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all again soon.